What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Ryan Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live. What is up, SuperAero Squadron, AvGeek, nerd, airplane people? It's Wednesday at 1:30 Zulu. That means only one thing. It's time for SuperAero Live. That was pretty good, right? I rehearsed that a little bit this time. That was good. All right, so really excited to have everyone tonight. We've got two guests at the same time, which has me sweating a little bit. I'm sure my glasses will fog up. And then separately, we got to talk about all the stuff we got to do, right? You got to subscribe, you got to share, you got to like it. The sharing's the big one. That helps a lot. And, wow, I'm just so excited. Okay, separately, the other thing I got to say, I got to slow down, relax a little bit to tell you about the new Patreon supporters I had. Guys, I had some amazing people hop in on Patreon. Super nice, super supportive. And I just want to say thanks to those guys. So you know who you are, new people. Even had someone like prepay a whole year, which is, that's dumb, but amazing. So thank you to those people. If you want to support the channel, patreon.com, SuperAero. There's some patches. You see me hold them up every week. The one cool thing is you haven't seen this one yet. Getting some hats made. I should have had them before. Well, one guy's been waiting for like 6 months, but they finally are being made, and there's special exclusive patch is going to go on the hat. So that's what that. No one's ever seen that before. That's what those folks are going to get on a super cool trucker hat. So anyway, I got merch for days, man. It's my only hustle. Let's talk about who's here today. I've got two guys with two first names. It's these dudes. Look at that. It's Chris, Henry, and Hal Bryan, everybody. How's it going, guys? Thanks for joining me.
I swear I can hear the applause from here. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we say hi to some people in the chat? You guys can't see it, but I'll tell you who's here. We got some great people in the chat who are excited to see.
And we can decide whether or not we want to say hi, right?
Just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
You can do whatever you want. You guys can do whatever you want. I'm just going to read off some names, and you react accordingly. Okay, here we got Marty. Marty's here in the chat. Pilot
Marty.
Annie from a couple weeks ago. Annie, so good to have you in the chat. She's amazing. One of those new Patreon supporters, too, which is like, what? Gary Smith's back. Hey, Gary. Who else is here? Nick Moore, my photographer buddy. You guys probably know that guy.
Yeah.
Sarah Clucky's here. Timmerman Pilot's here. Timmerman Pilot says that you guys have... I didn't bring you on to talk about this, but you have very interesting guests on the green dot.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice to hear. Yeah, we were glad to see the green dot in your opening video too.
Yeah,
I did that just for you guys. Like,
I'm aware that every other time it's the orange dot, but this time.
Yeah, I went in. I actually didn't. I just photoshopped it in. Let's see. Sarah Not Nice Nizzler's here.
Oh no.
Barry Herwald's here.
Hang on, I got
Barry. Me and Barry go way back.
Yeah. Lots of super cool people here. Zach Sherman. Zach is about to start his pilot journey. Zach, I hope that's kicking butt for you. Nick Morris talking about a song I said in one of my videos about how the landings didn't do something with my butt. Dude, it's so awesome. 782 Pop is here. Guys, what this is going to be is just me reading names for a full hour, and then you don't get to talk at all. Sarah's here. Cool. Brad's here. The gang is all here. So excited to have you all. Thank you for joining us. Let's kick it off. And actually, would you guys mind if I started the show on a bit of a downer?
You haven't already?
No, well, because we're going to talk about a B17 tonight.
Oh.
You know where I'm going with this?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pay tribute. A super, super cool dude. I never met him, but was inspired by his work. Jack Bally, the designer of the Bally B17, which, if you haven't seen it, folks, is a 1/3 scale, single-seat, home-built B17 replica, which was at Oshkosh. Was it last year or year before?
Would have been at least the year before.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Amazing piece of work.
2017.
He passed away a couple days ago at the age of 79. So, Jack, Blue Skies, Tailwinds, Gone West. Amazing dude.
I spent a lot of time with Jack. Did the feature on him for Sport Aviation magazine. And that airplane was astounding. We crawled all through it, nose to tail. And it was one of the most amazing projects I've ever had a look at.
Yeah, super inspiring for me as someone who's not built anything yet to see that and to see the creativity applied to it. So, I don't know. I don't want to be too much of a downer, but I just thought it was worth, give it a little honor to Jack. I think it was such a cool thing that he did. And if you guys are watching afterwards, I'll put a link in the show description. You can check out. EA's done a bunch. Hal's done a bunch of work on it specifically. You can check it out. It's an amazing piece of work. So now I somehow have to transition from that to you guys.
We'll wait.
Okay, well, just let me figure it out. 72 Papa says, sorry to hear that, beautiful airplane. Yeah. And Wolficorn's here. Hey, Wolficorn, you came at the best part. All right. So we're talking about B7. We're talking about a very special B17 tonight. We're talking with two very special gentlemen about a book that was written about that aircraft. And I guess where we should start is, Chris, if you want to, let's start with you because you're over here. If you want to just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, where you guys are from. Let's get the intros out of the way.
Sure. So my name's Chris. I'm the Museum Programs Coordinator at EAA. And I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and don't hold it against me. But growing up as a kid, I lived in the flight path of Pittsburgh Airport. So airplanes would fly over a lot. And as a kid, I got really fired up about it. And long story short, I ended up begging my parents to take me out to volunteer at the local air museum. And they were smaller museum, just north of Pittsburgh at Beaver Falls. And they were restoring, of all things, a B-17. And from that time on, I was just hooked. I was hooked on B-17s, on warbirds, on old airplanes, and just airplanes in general. So very fortunate to get to come to work here and get to be part of the crew at EAA. And one of my projects was working on aluminum Overcast, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Rock on. Hal, can you be as well spoken as Chris?
Not even close.
So, I doubt that here. Come on.
Thanks for giving me a chance to at least try. So my aviation background goes back really before I was born. My parents both worked for United Airlines, and they met on a DC-6. Dad was the captain, Mom was the stewardess, as she would have been known back then. They got married, which meant, of course, she got fired immediately because you could not be a married stewardess in 1959, because those were progressive times. But moving on from there, certainly aviation was in my blood, has always been in my blood. When I was 8 years old, we moved from the San Francisco area up to a private airstrip outside of Seattle. And I lived there until I was 18 and then left, and then have been trying to figure out why I left ever since. We had a runway in the backyard. I grew up flying in and flying a 1944 Cessna T-50, which is known as the Bamboo Bomber. And that airplane, ours was in the U.S. Army Air Forces, built and that type would have been used for pilots going on to fly something like B-17 and many times to get their multi-engine rating. So you might start with a Stearman, then T6, then you go into something like the Bamboo Bomber. If you're going to the bomber route, get a multi-engine rating in that, and then go on to a B-17. So it's it's nice to sort of come full circle and now be involved in telling the story of a B-17, knowing so many of those crews would have flown a type like I grew up around.
So that means then that you're all set. You're ready to go.
I'm bring it on. I'm not sure what I'm ready for, but I'm you know I'm ready.
I would be remiss to say someone, Amy Reese, wants to say hi to you two.
Amy, our beloved former colleague.
She says she misses you.
Good to hear from you, Amy.
Yeah,
miss you.
From you, Amy.
And also, Waukesha Pilot's in the chat. He's been in every chat, and he was upset that I didn't say hi. He said, "What am I, dirt?" Sorry, buddy. I got you though. I got you. And for those taking look, glasses are steamed up. It only took 16 minutes. So that must mean things are going great tonight. All right. So you guys are both you're both at EAA,
right?
And as you mentioned, EAA has Aluminum Overcast, this amazing kind of flying museum in its own right. You've also got a book about that now. Can you guys just take me to the beginning of that? Like, where does the distracted by the chat. There's the book. Thank you.
There it is.
I was about to make fun of you for not sending me a copy. I have no idea what's in it.
Here. That's what's in it.
It's about P-38s.
Ooh, look at those pretty pictures. So talk to me about where did the idea to write this book come from?
That's all you, Chris.
I guess where it started was I was a B-17 nerd, as a lot of us are, and when I came to EAA, I started working in the membership services department, and my supervisor was a great person named Nikki Watts, and she found out I was a B-17 nerd, so she put me on the calls for people who were calling in to book their flights, and we started hearing these amazing stories of why people were buying the ride. It was because my grandpa was one, and we want to buy him one last ride on a B-17, we heard stories from our dad, and we want to go sit in it and see what it's all about. So it was there was a lot of neat stories already coming out of it. Never knew this would all happen. This was kind of just like a fun little side thing that I was keeping track of people that were taking a ride on the B-17 and some of their stories when they would share them with us, as well as their photos. So after about a year or two, I put a little program together that I just kind of did in some of the local areas here about some of the cool stories attached to the veterans that were coming on the B-17, some of the special moments that were happening on it. I ended up giving this talk for our boards here at EAA, and Rose Pelton, our CEO Jack Pelton's wife, really enjoyed it, and she told Jack that we ought to do a book. And then Jack came in to work and said, "Go do a book." So Jim Busha and his team kind of pulled us all together, and what you see is this a great series of teamwork from so many people pulled together to create this awesome book. So that's kind of the origins of it. Hal, did I miss anything there? Because I think our instructions were go do a book.
That was pretty much it. But I've got to point out that that these are the stories Chris has collected, and this these are. I want to say these are Chris's stories. I mean, they're EAA stories. They're everybody's stories. But Chris had pulled all these stories together, and it started out with a single, probably the single biggest Word document I've ever seen, and then once he was at that stage, then I came in kind of as a co-author, just a little bit of polishing, a little bit of rearranging. Wrote. I added the word "the" a couple of times. The big heavy lifting stuff.
I misspelled it, so.
Well, I wrote some interstitial stuff to help kind of string it together, and we we iterated back and forth, and then worked with our in-house copy editors and proofreaders, and of course, Brandon Jacobs, our gifted designer, put the whole thing together. Our marketing team helped launch it and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, we launched it basically right at the start of the pandemic. So that's always a good time to do anything new and exciting. But we have big launch plans, and I think we will still go ahead with this as things normalize. We had big launch plans. We were going to actually have a media launch party just at the B17 and send people on media flights. Probably try to fill it with local sort of aviation YouTube live influencers if we knew anybody.
I mean,
just
I don't know if I'd really be interested in that.
So
I'm sure you can find somebody.
I'm sure one of the people out there watching would know somebody they could recommend. But anyway,
I mean,
so that official launch is a little bit on hold, but it's actually been doing just fine on its own through just sort of an online launch and word of mouth and things. It's on our website right now at eaa.org. Not on Amazon yet. That was another project that was just underway when things kind of went a little haywire. But we'll pick that up again soon, I think, because it's important to be there in that marketplace as well.
Absolutely. And so I guess I just want to, you guys let me crawl around a different bomber once, and you still invited me back. So
right, yeah, we let you play around on the B-25,
which I'll put a link to that in a card if you're watching this later. But so talk to me a little bit. I guess I have so many questions, both about the B-17, right? Like that.
Right.
And then separately, just the stories that you collected. And I wonder if, I don't know, let's imagine that somebody in the chat doesn't know anything about the B-17. Why is that an important aircraft for EAA to use in its outreach efforts?
Well, I think that, one of the questions we get a lot when we do tours in the Eagle hangar is, why does EAA have an Eagle hangar? Because, the main goal of EAA is general aviation. Although warbirds certainly fall into it, warbirds also certainly spark that interest. When a warbird flies into an airport, there's a certain amount of interest, of inspiration that can happen. Let's face it, so many of us that are into aviation, when we started building models, that was our first entry into this. That was, as a kid, we can go to the store, buy a model, and they were models of B-17s and P-51s and things like that. So aluminum overcast, when it shows up at an airport, it's suddenly an event at that airport. And sometimes airports, if you're not truly into aviation, you might not think you're welcome at an airport. Well, suddenly here's this big World War II bomber, and there's banners up saying, come on in. And maybe people who never thought that they were welcome at that airport suddenly realize that this is their community's owned airfield, that everybody is welcome there. So I think that's one of the aspects that's important about our airplane. Of course, the other is honoring the veterans who flew it. We're quickly running out of our World War II veterans, and those stories are quickly becoming no longer firsthand but secondhand accounts, and we need to do everything we can to make sure we're getting those recorded and shared, and making sure we're getting them from the sources while they're still here.
And just to build on that a little bit, if I may, Chris, the excuse me, the B-17 was a tool that helped save the world. It sounds melodramatic, but 80 years ago, you took B-17 and you filled it with teenagers. You put a 20, 21-year-old in the left seat, and you set them out into the most horrific conditions, freezing at high altitude, literally surrounded by Nazis who wanted to kill them. And so many didn't come back. But those that did, as you said, we have, as stewards of the airplane, we have an obligation to use that airplane to honor those people, find their stories, the people who served in combat, the people who served at home, building the airplanes, working on the airplanes, maintaining them. You can't operate an airplane like that, in my opinion, without acknowledging that debt that all of us owe.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all. Yeah, and I think so. This was that we were joking just a minute ago about me crawling around in the B-25, but like that being. There's a moment in the video. Sarah's chasing me around the thing, probably trying to make sure I don't break anything. And I was crawling through the tunnel between the like bombardier position and like the main cabin, and that I don't know why it was that moment, but in that moment, like it like clicked for me, right? Like the idea of like being in that aircraft in combat when I was like 18 or 19 or something, and it really hit me hard. And when I was flying back home that day, I couldn't stop thinking about just how different and lucky we are. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of feelings after having that like physical experience. So I could totally see why you guys have it, right? Because that you can't get that experience by reading a Wikipedia page, although that's important. And you can't. I just can't imagine. I'm seeing the segue in my head. I can't imagine being someone who went through that and then getting to revisit that however many years later. Like, what are the average age of the people that were experiencing that with you guys? I mean, they've got to be either families.
Usually the folks that come out to see us are low to mid 90s is the average age. High side is, sometimes we will get one that's 100. John Luckadoo, who's in the book, I believe he's close to 100, if not 100 now. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about folks they're certainly not young, and what's amazing though is when you get near the airplane. And I know that anybody who's involved in old airplanes has seen this and experienced that. A little bit of their youth comes back, and they'll get a little bit more spry, and they're willing to try to climb into this this B17. And it's not easy, as you've experienced in the B25, which is smaller, obviously. But these aircraft weren't built for comfort, and
certainly
it's incredible. It's really amazing to see how passionate these guys are. That in their 90s they'll come up on a walker, and then suddenly the walker gets pushed aside in some cases, and back Grandpa goes into the waist of a B-17. And it's cool because you're making a good day for these guys. You're making a good memory, not just for them, but for their families.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Someday if I'm lucky, I'll make it that I'll make it that long, and then I'll be able to like I've seen what you're talking about happen firsthand, and it's amazing. I want to hop into the chat real quick, and then I want to ask you guys about some of the stories that are in the book. Maybe you could tease a couple. Just people talking in the chat about the same experience you're talking about. Waukesha Pilot says, my father was a bombardier on a Mitchell bomber, B-24, B-25. I forget. I think B-25. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which in Milwaukee we have Mitchell Field, and there's a B-25 like plane on a stick when you drive into that airport.
Restored by EAA's founder, Paul Poberezny.
Yeah. Was it really?
As a matter of fact. Yeah.
Wow.
And he didn't he arrange for the donation, Chris, or he brokered that?
No.
Yeah, he was a big part of it, and it was they told him to pick whatever one he wanted, and he picked the lowest time one for the display. So he went and got the newest one there was for that.
Wow. Well, and then the only thing I know about it, that's amazing. The only thing I know about it is we had this like massive snowstorm a couple of years ago,
right.
And like the wings fell off, and so they had to I don't know who restored it, but it was like lovingly restored, and now there are wing holding sticks to keep it under that snow load to keep it from collapsing again. But let's see who else. Lori says, I got to fly in the B-17. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's great.
782 Papa says, I flew in Fuddy Duddy because aluminum aircraft was down for maintenance.
I flew on Fuddy Duddy that same year. It was long before I worked for EAA. It was about somewhere around 2003 or so. So I wonder if we were even on that same flight. If it was out of Oshkosh, it's not impossible.
Yeah, that would be wild. He says to think that 18 to 20-year-olds fought the war in them was overwhelming. I can see that for sure. Yeah, so that's. Here we go. Here's the other part I wanted to say. I imagined I was an 18-year-old heading out for a mission, wondering if I was coming back or not. Spine tingling.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some spine-tingling stories from your book. so if there was one story, like if you were pitching the book to, like, elevator pitch the book to me, and you're like, there's this one story, if you're gonna buy the book, here's the story you gotta buy it for. Like, what would it be? Like, what's the one you guys are most proud of?
Chris, can I set it up and then you tell the story?
Yeah, you go ahead.
So, as I said, I came on as sort of a co-writer on this book, really as an editor first and foremost. So I've read and touched every page of this book between 7 and 12 times, but there are all the stories affect me still, no matter how many times I've read them. I don't have a favorite, but there is one in particular, Chris. It's about ordering a jacket and needing to get a jacket there on time. That every time I'd get to that one on another read through, another edit, or proofing stage, or looking at the galleys, whatever, I would still tear up. And I mean, I could now just thinking about it, but nobody wants to see that.
I ugly cried too. So,
well, you can't. Don't leave me hanging. Like, what?
Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, Chris with the story.
So, at some point in my endeavors in membership, I would help out the marketing folks with the air tours. And so I get to work with some really fun people, some great people. We would always do a media flight. And the media flights happened when we would arrive into town. We would do a media flight on a Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we would sell rides. So what I started doing was I would work on getting newspaper, radio, TV to come out and fly with us. But then I'd also try to find a veteran or somebody noteworthy in the area that wanted to come out and fly with us. But veterans got, I guess, special treatment. They got first dibs, especially if we could find a B17 pilot or B17 crew. So we're out in Colorado, and we get a B-17 waist gunner, and this was my first media flight that I ever sort of got entrusted with setting up. Really excited. I got full loaded. I had 9 members of the media and the veteran, and we're all set to go. And the media, it's tough because they catch a lot of flack, but they also have a big responsibility to cover the news that's breaking and to serve that their community. And but it was a really silly story that broke, and the media just jumped off it, and they didn't want to cover the flight anymore. They wanted to cover this breaking news that I won't say his name, but I think it was a musician who was trying to sneak a monkey into the country or something, and they took his monkey. I can't make that up. So the media was like, "Well, forget it. We want to go cover this." So now you got to understand that for weeks prior to this flight, the veteran who was going to fly with us has been building this up in his head. He's been building it up with his family. His family had traveled. They weren't all from the same place, the same towns anymore, but they had all gotten together, and they were really making a big, event for this gentleman, and rightly so. But now we only have one newspaper guy, and we have a veteran, and otherwise an empty flight. And I talked to Christy Bussey, our aircraft manager, and Christy said, "There's no way we can't go flying with this veteran." So we filled the airplane with the rest of the airplane with his family, and we went flying. And he got to go. the newspaper gentleman who showed up got to go, and then they come back, and all went well. So come back to Monday morning, I go to work, and then I get a call from his son, and his son is trying to order one of the jackets. If you've seen them, they're green jackets, flight jacket. It's got the airplane embroidered in the back. Really cool. I mean, you can only get one once you've flown on the airplane. And I was talking to him, and we're ordering the jacket, and he says, well, I want to overnight it. And I remember it was like $62 or something like that to overnight this jacket. And I'm like, we can get to there like in 3 days for like $10 or something, And he said, no, we have to overnight it. And I said, well, how did the flight go? And he said, well, everything went great. We all got to fly with him. And we come back, and we decided we were all here, we're all together. Let's take this opportunity, and we'll go out to dinner. So they all went out to dinner. And at dinner, their dad said that after a mission, they would have something to drink, a shot. So they all did a shot with him. And he said that night he had his notebook with him. And in this notebook, he kept mission entries that said, mission number 15, we went to this town, and boy, it was a rough one, a lot of flak or fighters. And he said he wrote mission number 26, I flew with my family tonight. And, we're all like, wow, that's pretty powerful. And he said, well, then that night, when we all went home, Dad passed in sleep. And the reason we want the jacket is because we want to bury him in the jacket. And it really was a wake-up call, at least for me, that this is what this meant to these people. This is how they want history to remember them, by this very short but powerful point in life. So the jacket's got new meaning, I think, for all of us. When that story first came out and we learned about it, it was it's like Hal said. I mean, I could get kind of tingly here now telling this story. So the airplane definitely has the ability to touch people. That's for sure.
Wow. I got nothing else. Stream's over.
And good night.
And good night. That's
was,
incredible. That's incredible,
that
right?
was a tough one.
That's tough, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well, there's something powerful. I mean, anybody in our lives who is of an advanced age, at some point, it's inevitable you start thinking of them as, whether that there's that cute old man or that nice sweet old lady down the block, and we mean well by it, but you would be so careful because that can also be sort of patronizing and sort of demeaning, because so many people of that generation did absolutely extraordinary things that so many of us in the generations that have come since, I don't know that we would even be capable of if we were called. And you just can't overstate the debt that we owe. I've been an amateur historian most of my life, and a history buff at least. And there's some stories you sort of dig into, and the deeper you go, you sort of find out about it, you understand it, you can now kind of wrap your head around it and feel like, okay, I grasp this whole thing. But when you look at stories of these kids going off to fight in whatever capacity or serve in whatever capacity in that era, the World War II era, the whole world is in flames. It just gets bigger, and the more you learn, the more just incomprehensible it becomes, and the more I think the more humbling it becomes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I without like talking too much about current times, right? Like I was talking to my dad, he's 80. I was talking to him about what's going on now, and he's a child of World War II. Grew up with, doing lights out, air raid drills and rationing and all that stuff. And he was like, we'll be fine. We were fine. We were fine back then. And I was like, yeah, but how? And he's like, you rise to the occasion. And I think a lot about that now. And I think a lot about how I'm gonna get even more serious for a second. Like I'm a new dad. I've got a two. Well, not new. I've been new. And I got a 2 and a 5-year-old. So I'm sort of know what I'm doing. And when these like global crises erupt, is the only time I feel. I mean, you feel fear when you're a kid's like, I don't know, eating a sandwich, right? It's like you're always scared. But like when global crises like emerge, I have like a fear as a parent that I have never felt before. And I think about how we have the benefit of information now. We have the benefit of technology. Like things are so much more out in the open. We can educate ourselves in different ways than they could during that war. Like I just don't even know how I'd handle it. So then to say like if I were in high school, you'd throw me in a B17. I mean, well, that's a joke. They'd probably, I don't know. What's the worst job? I would get that job, but they wouldn't trust me with it. But I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit, but Gary Smith's summing it up. He says they were saving the world. And that, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to, like... Yeah, he also says today people freak out if their internet is down. Yeah, maybe a little... maybe this all gives us a little perspective, right?
Right.
Well, I try to... When we do tours in the museum, especially with younger folks, we try to... I try to put it on levels that they'll understand because, during the war they had to ration. And they had to ration... different things. And I always try to tell them, could you imagine today if you had to ration your screen time for the war effort or your, how many videos you could watch in a day or something like that? You had to ration that for the war effort. And I'm not, I don't mean to belittle it. Just, you got to understand that that's what you would have had to have done, and it's kind of, they always kind of look at each other like, oh, like, yeah, that wouldn't be very fun, and then for the war effort, like, really? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, and not just the, obviously the people in these aircraft did amazing things, but everybody fought World War II, and that entire generation is amazing. The people on the home front, that did their part. I mean, it wasn't the easiest on the home front either. And think about how uncomfortable these young ladies were leaving, a home and going into work in a factory, for the first time. I mean, you're probably pushing your comfort level there, and they did it because that's what needed done, and that's pretty incredible. That whole generation is just something special.
I 100% agree, and I think that all of that for me. I mean, and let's even take it back to like just like general aviation, right? Like flight training. Like anytime I would get frustrated, I learned in J3 Cubs, like anytime I got frustrated, I'd be like, well, like someone probably flew this plane learning to go fight. So like buck up, Buttercup. Like
true.
So your reward is not to go out and be shot at. It's just to fly for the sheer fun of it.
Right. So we got a little bit more time before it's time to play. So by the way, I'm gonna tease this a little bit. So I have like we're gonna play a different version of Short Final. This is my answer key. Don't steal it, guys. We're gonna play an interesting thing of Short Final. But an anonymous donor has
a picture of that.
An anonymous donor has reached out and offered to send one of your books to someone in the audience who gets an answer right based on this aircraft trivia. So hang in for the end.
Excellent.
We'll try to get those sales numbers up for you guys.
There you go.
But awesome.
One of the questions someone asked, so obviously there's all these beautiful stories. The story you just shared, Chris, thank you for that. I mean, sure. I'm still kind of reeling from it, but it's such a beautiful story. I'm still thinking about it. One of the questions was more kind of tactically about the book. Marty was asking, see if I can find it in here. He's asking about the book in terms of it's formatted. There's stories and then there's photography.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about the photography? Because one of the things that I love about EA, and you guys aren't a sponsor. This isn't a sponsored show tonight, but I've said to folks on your staff, like, wow, like, who do you guys use to, like, design your stuff? Who do you use to make all this content that you make? Thinking there'd be, like, the answer would be, like, a company. But
Right.
it's like homegrown. Like, it's there in Oshkosh. Like, you guys are making this stuff as a team, and that it's so beautiful. So I won't be able to find it. Oh, here we go. I did find it. Are the photos in the book from the actual people the stories are about? Like, what's the format of that sort of stuff? What can people expect?
So the black and white photos, I'll talk to that. The black and white photos are from the people. Those are used with permission from either the families, the veterans, or the bomb groups that they served in. The color photos, and I'll hand this over to Hal. The color photos, the video portion of the book, that all comes in-house from our team that's super talented. And how do you want to talk about the photos and the cover?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think may have mentioned Brandon Jacobs' name earlier. If I didn't, I will now. So he's responsible for the overall design and layout of the book. He does sport aviation and a lot of other in-house stuff, and he leads our entire design team at EAA. And for those of you who've seen this book, I'm biased, but I don't mind saying it is an absolutely gorgeous book. And it's the first book Brandon's ever designed. I think for anybody that would come as a surprise, because it really is beautiful inside and out. The book is organized by crew station. So we've got pilots, co-pilots, et cetera, all through all 10 crew stations, back to the tail gunner, and then a couple of other ancillary things, ground crew and war home front kind of stuff. And the stories are organized like that. So to set off each crew station section of the book, our chief photographer, Connor Madison, and I think, Chris, you were there helping do some set dressing and stuff, shot new photos specifically for the book, interiors of the crew stations and things like that. And that was one thing, as a quick aside, that we kept coming back to as we're working on this book is, getting to a point saying, boy, we really need a photo of what it looks like when you're sitting at the radio room. Oh, cool. We have a B17. We'll just go take it. That is an extraordinary blessing to have when you're working on a book like this. Instead of saying, well, maybe I'll look at Wikimedia Commons one more time and see if I can find exactly what I need. We can just go shoot it. Chris, you mentioned video. There's another thing. As you go through the book, at each crew station, and then a few other spots throughout, there's some QR codes, so you can point your phone at that, and that'll launch a video, either the sort of point of view video from that crew station, or maybe a deeper interview with that particular story subject, those kinds of things. So the book, we tried to make it come to life as best we could. I've got to call out Alden Frauchi, who worked heavily on those videos, in particular. The crew station videos, there's kind of you want to list or cue those up and put headphones on if you can, because there's a whole audio soundscape. It was just shot on our B17 as you're maybe looking out the waist gunner position or something. So it's just sort of a general video looking out through the open window as the landscape goes by. But you put your headphones on and you'll hear the echoes of World War II combat, and you'll hear voices and you'll hear the airplanes roaring by. If you're in the radio room, you listen closely, you might hear a very special message if you're up for decoding it. There's a lot of rich content that goes into something like this, and we are beyond lucky that we had every piece of it in-house. Chris is the source of the stories. My editing team that I work with, Brandon and his design team, photographers, videographers, editors, all kinds of things like that. And then working with our publisher, Quad Graphics, who does our magazine. They did a beautiful job in putting it all together.
That's awesome. I was just thinking, those folks at Quad Graphics, the book's got to be amazing then. Also, hashtag not a sponsor. I did some work for my day job as a producer, a video producer, and we did some work for Quad Graphics, and we interviewed a guy who could tell if the magazine or book or whatever was produced by Quad Graphics by smelling it.
Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible. That's like attention to detail, man.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of attention to detail, I don't think you're really going to be able to see this, but one of the things that I didn't realize was a thing you had to do when you're publishing a book, and this is really the third book I've worked on, but you can just kind of see, forgive me, it's all backwards and stuff. There's at the top of the spine, right in there, there's some thread there, the binding thread that holds the whole book together. And one of the 12,000 tiny tasks that goes into producing something like this was choosing the colors. And Quad sent us a whole big poster with all the different combinations that we could choose from. So Brandon and I sat down and, sat at my desk and said, okay, we've got to choose the colors. Brandon said, do you want Chris to come and help? And I said, no. That was it. But we chose the yellow and black, which I think sets off this cover nicely. Which you get a really good view of that there.
It's also Steeler colors, so,
Yeah, well.
I don't even know.
Go sports team.
Sports Sprots.
Sprots, yes.
So before we wrap up, I guess I just want to give you guys, we're going to play our game in a minute. We're going to play a short final, our trivia game tonight with you guys. But before we do that, is there anything else, like if someone's wants to learn more about the B17 or about something in the book that they might learn that you were surprised about as you made, I mean, that's like a thick book, man. Like that's like some serious work. Like what else would you share? Like you hinted at some sort of crazy multimedia experience, but is there anything else that you were just surprised to learn?
I think I absolutely learned a ton through the entire process. Not just about the B17, but about that generation completely. I also learned, when I came here, I was really geeked out about the airplane, the paint, the rivets, the airframe. And along the way, it became more about the people, and it became more about taking these black and white photos and realizing that these were fathers and sons and brothers that were on these airplanes. The other thing I do want to make sure I call out is just to thank you to Hal. Thank you to the entire team that helped put this together, because Hal's not exaggerating. I created the world's longest Word doc. And said, yay, it's a book. So really, though, it took an entire team to get a B-17 off the ground. And it took an entire team to do this, and we're just really fortunate that I think we had a really awesome team. So honored to be a part of it, and thank you guys for all the hard work that everybody did on it. There's just amazing people here.
Well, it's an incredible privilege to come through something like this and hold it in your hands, and then know that that book is out there starting to do. At the risk of patting ourselves on the back too hard, the book is out there, hopefully to do an important thing, and that is to share these stories that don't deserve for us to keep them under wraps. They deserve to be out there for people to see them.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just think remembering all of this is so important, because it's like the old trope about history repeats itself, right? So what can we learn, and then what can we do to remember? Because it's like, hopefully in my lifetime, it's happening, but hopefully nothing like that will happen, right? And so we got to remember the people that got us here, and they brought us here on their shoulders, and they just deserve to be commemorated. I got a couple questions for you, and then let's play a game.
Awesome.
Lori says, "Truly souls on board." That's a nice thought. She also said, "Hal and Chris do an extraordinary job of bringing guests to the museum. They make the experiences memorable." I wonder how much money you paid her to put that in the comments.
Well, I know that wasn't Sarah, because it was very nice.
Did I say Sarah? It was Lori.
I know. I said, well,
Lori
okay, sorry. I didn't catch that it was Lori.
Oh.
I didn't catch that you said a name at all. So
Oh.
I was running through the list of people I knew it wasn't.
Lori, the check will clear in a couple days. Don't worry.
Yes. I've always liked you, Lori. You're the best.
Gary Smith has kind of the last question I'll ask before we goof around with airplane pictures. Gary says, how long did it take to get all the material and to get to the final product?
Well, from the story side of things, from the veteran experiences, that was about 5.5 years of collecting stories. Now, for the time that Jack and Jim said go make a book, how long do you think that process was?
Boy, when we got sort of got the word that we were really gonna do this, that was fall, I think. Does that sound about right? Like maybe
like right after AirVenture?
Yeah, maybe August, maybe late summer. So maybe August or September. I remember truly getting started and really cranking on it. It was nearly full-time job, sort of on top of our other full-time jobs.
Yeah, you don't have anything else to do.
Nah, not a thing. But I would say, from October really through February or so was just cranking away and iterating and proofreading and reviewing and fact checking and all the important stuff that's got to go in. But as I said, it's exciting when you see the PDFs the first time and see a hint of what the design looks like. It's exciting when you get the giant piece of paper that has the cover art on it and stuff. But somehow, and maybe this is just because I'm a tremendous book nerd. I've got bookshelves in every room in my house. When somebody hands you an actual physical book and you helped put it together, that changes everything. That's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not done.
I have a picture of.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jim. The day they came in, Jim brought me a few, and I actually still have it on my phone because I could never erase it. I was so excited. I took a picture of them sitting on the front seat of my car, literally in the Hardee's parking lot where he met me, just to send to my mom, like, "Oh my God, this is real." So, it's a pretty surreal moment.
And I think it's also more special now because we don't have as many physical things. I spend my entire day at work, RAP job. I used to spend my entire day at work making, just obsessing over something that you cannot touch or hold it was just, it's electrons, right? When I started my career, it was film in a camera, and that at least then it was okay, we made a thing. Here it is. We exposed this film.
So one of the special moments that kind of came out of this whole pandemic thing with the book launching right basically in the middle of it was that on Mother's Day, there's a gentleman who's a ball parrot gunner featured in the book, and he's no longer with us. He passed away last summer. And his wife is still with us. She's also in the book. And for Mother's Day, the family, they couldn't interact. They could go up to the window of her house. They weren't allowed to go in the house. We were at that stage of this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And so what they did was they ordered a bunch of books, and they sent her one. And they basically stood outside the window with her, and they read through the chapter on their on their grandfather and father was a ball parrot gunner. And as well, book, and that's how they celebrated Mother's Day. So it was kind of neat to see that something we had put out there had was able to carry through a rough time, and a family kind of used it to celebrate a special day. That was pretty cool to see.
That is super cool to see. Yeah, that's amazing.
And just quickly before we leave the idea of the physical medium, that always means the most to me. But we do have to say that it will be an ebook at some point. It was intended that would have been done in time for the launch, but the world kind of got in the way for some of these things.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know it's, but anyway. So there will be an ebook version, and my hope is that we'll have two. We'll have sort of your typical e-ink Kindle version, and then we'll have one that's multimedia enhanced, so that the video content and stuff is just built right in if you're reading it on a Fire tablet or an iPad or something like that.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
That's so cool, and I think that's also a way to keep the younger folks. Like I'm like so old now. Like, keep the younger folks excited about it, right?
Those whippersnappers.
All right.
Yes.
Should we play a game before I
do
let
it.
you go? So here's the thing. So when I came.
This isn't like Plinko, is it? I've always wanted to play Plinko.
It's not at all like Plinko. So I was impressed. So obviously, Chris, we're friends on Facebook now, and I've been watching you kind of like. Every once in a while, you'd be like, "Oh, here's like this model I made of this like obscure aircraft," and then Hal, separately, when I visited EAA and you guys let me climb through the B-25, you were like identifying all these like super strange aircraft just like hanging from the rafters, and you'd be like, "I don't know if anyone but me knows what that is up there." So,
which is why I was able to get away with making up names for everything.
Well, you had.
my
Well,
thing.
I guess we're gonna find out the truth. So what I did is I went on Wikipedia this morning, and I found a bunch of. Get the glasses on. Let's do this.
I'm ready.
I downloaded a bunch of public domain photographs, all in the public domain, of World War II and a couple transitionary World War I to World War II aircraft. And I thought it would be fun. On this channel, we do a thing called Short Final. It's kind of the last interview bit, where we could maybe... I got a couple rounds worth. Well, just like, there's no real points, but you get more points if you get them right. And maybe the audience can see count how many you got right. And I started with I think I ordered them in order of difficulty. So we're going to see. Are you guys up for it?
Nope.
We'll try it.
All right. All right. So let's see if I got this all set up. I always forget to hit the timer. Here we go. Okay. Let's got Chris in the window. We'll just switch. We'll switch between rounds here. Let me get the music going. And then, so what this will be is like, I'll show you a picture. Can you see that all right, Chris? I'll show you a picture.
I can't see, I can't see you at all, actually, so...
Oh, then you can't identify really these poorly. At all. Hal, can you see where it says round 1?
I can see where it says round 1.
If you can see round 1, that's good. Here. Yeah. So I will show you...
Mine's really truncated on my iPad for whatever reason, but we'll see.
All right, so... this might make it more interesting. Basically, you'll see a picture. You just shout out. Just shout out what you see in terms of records. So I'm going to start our dramatic music. There we go. And we will start our timer. And here's the first one.
P-51 Mustang.
Right, correct. What's this one?
B-29.
What about this one?
P-40.
P-40, correct. All right, here we go. Click the button, Ryan. I'm wasting it. There we go. What's that one?
It's our, what looks like N2S. It's here.
Yeah.
Wow, good job. Yeah. Specific. All right, here we go. 30 seconds left. What's that? Oh, Chris.
B-38.
Yeah, such a cool picture. Okay, here we go.
I'm only seeing about a quarter of the airplane, so the way my screen played out. Great.
Oh, nice. All right. What about those?
B-25s.
B-25s. Yeah, Doolittle raid. All right, what about this one?
Deck of the Hornet.
Yeah. A 0.
A6N2, probably 0.
Yep. Oh, we're almost out of time. First round. What about that one?
T6 Texans.
Yep. And that. Oh, you can't see it behind there. Move that.
The Corsair. Corsair.
Yeah, very famous photo of the Corsair. All right. So how do we do? Did we get through all of round 1? No, but here, what's that one?
Supermarine Spitfire in reconnaissance colors with D-Day stripes.
Shut up. Okay.
I love the extra detail that Hal's given. That's awesome.
Well, let's make it up for the ones where I have no idea. I'm laying the groundwork here.
All right, and in the chat, everyone was doing pretty good. They got the P-40 right. Someone guessed a Sopwith at some point. I think it was a joke. T6, P-51. All right, you guys want to do it again? We're just gonna keep going. Let's not worry about that. I'm gonna get rid of this timer because that doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's
there goes the
do another
stress.
round.
Oh wait, I'll just hit it. I'll just hit it anyway. I can't even get rid of it. There we go. All right, it's gone. We'll put the dramatic music on though, and we'll just keep pounding through these. You guys are 12 for 12, Marty says. So good job. And Gary says,
Remember, we're a team. We're on the same side.
Hal, you're just showing off, is what Gary says. And I think actually, Pilot Annie is chatting in. She must be a little delayed because she's getting them all right, but it's popping up later. So that must just be an internet thing. All right, here let's put the Godhammer music on again. You should know that one, Hal.
De Havilland Canada Tiger Moth, the C model with the enclosed canopy. A lot of time in that airplane.
What's that one, guys?
B17.
Yeah, the butt of a B17. All right, here you go.
Looks like an Aranca L3.
It is an Aranca L3. Oh, there's round 2.
Air Force Museums.
Oh, you even knew which one it was?
Round 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hellcat.
Hellcat, yep. All right. What about... Come on, work. There we go.
I can only see the middle of it.
So that has to be a... Is that a Stetson?
It's a Stinson. I see the Stinson, the part of a Stinson emblem on the tail.
It's got to be a Stinson. I think
right,
it's the Galling Stinson. So 108 or not a 108.
SR9.
Yeah, that's what it
I don't
looks
know
like.
what numbers it is. It's a Reliant.
A Reliant.
It's a Reliant, yeah.
All right, there we go. What about that one?
P-82, F-82.
One of those at Oshkosh last year.
Actually, that one was at Oshkosh.
That's right. PBY.
PBY!
Yeah.
Oh, and a backwards photo, too. SB
Dauntless.
Dauntless.
SB Dauntless.
Dude, you guys are killing it.
Yeah, we came to play, man.
Oh, Mosquito. DH, good old de Havilland Mosquito. Wouldn't wonder.
Yeah, have one in the museum. P-39?
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, P-39. Dude, you guys are killing it. You haven't missed a single one.
Oh, that one.
Is it the 038?
It's an 038 or 047. It's an O something.
It's an 046. Finally sort of stumped you.
47.
It's the Air Force Museums.
What about that guy? That's one of my favorites.
The pea shooter.
Yeah, the pea shooter. I like how lumpy it is.
Yeah, that's sweet.
One of those flying out in Chino, California. It's beautiful. B-24, Liberator.
Yeah.
Liberator, yep.
Not as cool as the B-17.
No, it's kind of weird.
Fighting words, but hey. B-21, the Grumman Goose.
Dude.
Tales of the Gold Monkey.
Yeah. This is pixelated. It looks like a Tiger Cat on my screen.
Yeah, it looks like a test Tiger Cat, an F7F.
Yeah.
Yep,
F7F,
it's a Tiger Cat. Yep, you guys are doing great. Okay, let's keep her coming. And the chat, dude, everyone's doing great in the chat as well.
Boeing 314.
Yeah.
And flying the beautiful
God,
Clipper.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Looks like a P-80.
P-80 shooting star.
That one.
By the way, that flying boat you showed, that's actually where the throttle quadrant on the B-17 came from.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They Boeing used the throttle quadrant out of this airplane, and then just turned it upside down.
Well, there you go. I had no idea. That's amazing.
On the ceiling in an amphib.
Yes. Yeah, it would have been up on the ceiling. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We talked about the shooting star. Oh, here's round 3. Okay, now they're getting a little weird.
Oh, we got.
I can only see part of it, but it looks like an F3F.
Yep, F3F.
Yep, F3F. I love that. That doesn't look like it should be able to fly. It's
so if you imagine taking the top wing off of that airplane, that's what became the F4F Wildcat. With that landing gear, a lot of the other design elements are already in place.
It's like an egg with wings.
It looks like an eggplane model, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what about that? So, I didn't know these actually flew during World War II.
Yeah, the first operational helicopter. Is it the R-55?
Yep. R4.
R4.
Yeah,
R4 hoverfly. So that's kind. I'll give you kind of a half pass on that, Hal. But
well,
Chris got
Chris and I are a team. Chris got it.
yeah, we're a team, man.
Okay, again, I can see the wheels. What if I rotate my screen? What happens there? Now it's still strange.
You actually got me on this because
I think these
it almost looks like.
Well, it looks like it would be in the fairy swordfish family, but it's
Yeah.
not a swordfish. So it's going to be interwar British. I would guess Royal Navy, but I just can't. I can see, as I said, I can see the wheels and one person. the way it's crossed.
So you are really close. So it's
hold on. Let's not go any further. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna send this to Hal.
Oh, you're gonna take a picture of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
So since we're having technical issues here, there you go, Hal. See if you think that. We do this at work too, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, we're always texting. That's all what it is. Okay, nothing yet. You sure you sent it? Boy.
Yeah. Oh, it just went.
Oh, there's the text. Okay, this is not it, but it also looks a bit like a fairy albacore, but I'm in the neighborhood, but I'm not right.
No,
Yeah.
so you guys, so there were like three, right? There were three that are kind of like in a row in development. I found this on a Wikipedia today. I don't know. I never would have known this if I hadn't prepared for this show tonight. You got the one before it and the one after it, but it's the one in the middle in the development cycle is the Fairy Gordon.
The Gordon.
Oh.
Okay, so between the swordfish and the albacore.
Yeah. So you've got the ones that matter. Everyone guessed swordfish in the chat, which is what it looks like.
Yeah, it's too clunky to be a swordfish. But I was bracketing the target.
Yeah, you bracketed, which means you hit it.
Exactly.
As far as I'm concerned. All right. This one, I don't even know. What is that?
Wow. That's the Lockheed. It depends on what they're. It depends on what they call this one, because Lockheed made a whole series of them. That looks like what they would have called the B-34 Lexington, I think.
So there was the Hudson, the Ventura.
Yeah.
It's the Hudson. Yeah, it's the A-29
Yeah,
They're in that
Hudson.
same Lockheed family.
Yeah,
They're
it's all the
Hudson.
same line. It just depends on what kind of tail number you got as to what it was.
Well, that's impressive, gentlemen.
And
Okay.
where it served.
What about this guy?
Yeah,
We're almost
yeah.
done. As I turn the page. I wanna
That's a
see-
Guardian.
That's a what?
A Guardian.
Maybe.
I think it was called the A2S, I think.
I have it as the Consolidated Seawolf.
No, maybe you're right. You must be right.
Well,
I
it
don't
looks
know.
a lot like the Guardian, though. But boy, that's getting pretty obscure, though. So well done, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Just wait, because I was like, I gotta go deep to stump these guys. So let's just take a second before we go. I mean, we're almost done. And thank you for hanging with me. You guys just got 16 over 30 aircraft with only one or two that were kind of like, what? It's one of these or one of these. That's incredible. That's incredible. So okay, let's
Ask me how much a candy bar costs.
Yeah.
right? All right, let's get into the weird ones here, and then the last. I don't even know how we're gonna do this to give away a book because technology is weird. But the last one or two, we'll try to give away a book to someone, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. All right, so we talked about the. You guys, maybe you're probably Wikipedia is probably wrong. All right, what about that one? That one seems hard.
That's got to be a Blenheim something. That certainly looks like it.
Again, I'm seeing the middle of it. If it doesn't have that squished glass nose, that's at two different levels. It's not a Blenheim, but it sure looks. It looks Bristol to me, but
I'm sending you a picture.
I see the wing root.
Here we go again. Let's not forget, folks, for the viewers at home, while they do this, like, Hal is only seeing the middles and getting them all right.
I don't know why my iPad sets it up like this, but like I see fish screen Chris, a pretty small Ryan, and then a tiny me, and then part of.
Literally the last
man.
like 10 of these, we've got 10 left. The last 10 I had never heard of. But I'm not
That one I would have to look up, but but let's move on. I'll concede.
I will tell you
that I could find it, but I don't know.
That's a Blackburn B-26 Botha.
Oh, a Blackburn. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
The people who brought you the Skua.
Yeah.
They probably made like one.
That's it.
This one is kind of cool looking.
Oh, yeah. P61.
Yep.
Yeah, please. So
One
you
of those
guys knew that right away. I was like,
forever.
P61 Black Widow.
That's a big airplane, by the way.
It looks, I suppose, like the cockpit is pretty. They sit in the front part, not the back part. Right?
Yeah, it's about the size of a B-25. I mean, it's a decent sized airplane.
All right. What about this guy? That's gonna be super hard for Hal.
Try another aspect ratio real quick. Oh, that's a Westland. It's either a Whirlwind or a Wyvern.
I was thinking Whirlwind.
It's a Whirlwind. Good job. Good job. Okay, I thought that was going to be harder.
Sorry if I'm making anybody sick. When I rotate the iPad, I can see a little bit more.
The Ryan Fireball.
See, I just put that one in because it's my name.
I love it. That's a great one.
Which is funny because Fireball is my pet name for you, Ryan.
And that's what I drank this evening.
You and me both.
So can we nerd out for a second? Like, do you guys want to tell people why the Fireball is cool, though? Because you can't tell in that photo.
Yeah, so it had a radial engine up front and it had a jet in the tail. So you were using both technologies. I mean, it
was like the world's coolest flying mullet.
Yeah, exactly.
The flying mullet. Tim Kanzler in the chat got the Whirlwind. Boom, right away.
Yeah. Hey, Tim.
Nice
Good
job,
to see Tim in here.
All right, we got a couple more before we wrap it up. What is that?
Oh, boy. Is that not the... I keep wanting to say the wrong one. It's the Junkers. Is it an 88?
See, it looks like an 88, but the twin tails, it looks like one that looks like an 88, but ends up being more obscure. Like it's one of those weird Blum and Voss designs.
Oh, okay.
So mostly, I just want to say for folks at home, it's really hard to find public domain images of German aircraft without swastikas on them. So that's why there haven't been too many German aircraft yet. This is the DO-215 Flying Pencil.
Oh, the pencil, so Dornier.
Dornier, okay.
Okay, well, I would have dug that one up.
That's all right. That's like the first time you've been truly stumped.
Yeah.
All right, what about... You're not going to be able to see this.
The Bell. Is it the Aero Bonita? Is that what they called that one?
Something like that. Boy, that's a weird, another great obscure one.
Yeah, it's super weird. Very lumpy. My favorite. All lumpy. It's a Bell Aracuda.
Aracuda.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember it had a weird name.
Bell liked doing weird names.
Aracuda.
Yeah.
This one's not fair because honestly, it could be any one of like 100 aircraft.
Again, rotate. Ooh. Looks like a Moran Saulnier something, but again, I'd have to dig into the library to say for sure. So
yeah, same.
I would say either French or maybe a late Caproni Italian. Hard to tell by the flash on the fin what colors those actually are.
I don't know why they didn't shoot the photo in color.
Yeah,
lazy jackasses of history.
It's an Armstrong Whitworth Scimitar.
Oh, so it is British. Armstrong Whitworth.
Wow.
That's a good one. Well done. Yeah, well done, Ryan.
All right, we got 3 more, and I don't know how we're going to do... Lori's like, lumpy? I don't know. I like the planes that don't look like they should work. Here's one.
So this was actually they called this the chain lightning.
Right away he gets it.
Yeah. This was I believe this was a modification off the P-38. But yeah, the chain lightning.
Yeah, it was the XP-58 chain lightning. I don't know.
Not to be confused with the fictional chain lightning used in the movie Humphrey Bogart plays the test pilot, and he flies. He flies an airplane called. I think actually the movie may even just be called Chain Lightning, if I remember right.
Dude, I could hang out with you guys all night. All right, I got two more. This one I liked because it looks ridiculous.
Oh,
You got me on this one. I can tell you right now.
yeah.
German stuff is.
The Germans were so good at trying everything, and then oftentimes producing them sometimes in fairly small numbers. So the flying pencil, the Dornier 215 was one I'm gonna lose sleep over missing. This one though I don't feel is bad. Dornier, Heinkel, Blaumann, Voss, one of those.
Do you want a
One of
hint?
those, like, experimental things. I don't think a hint would actually do it for me in this one. I would have to just go and dig into this.
So this is weird. It's just strange looking. Gary Smith says it's a flying greenhouse, which is true. That's not the name of it. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how I'm going to give away this book. It's a Focke-Wulf 189, which was also known as the Eagle Owl.
So the 189. Interesting, those inline engines on a Focke-Wulf design like that.
And I
A lot
guess
of glass.
there's a gun where, like, if it looks kind of like a bee, right? I think there's like a gun in like the stinger part of the bee.
Wow.
Excellent.
But I don't know why there's
That's
none forward facing. Just pooped bullets. So, all right. I think what we're gonna do is because I don't know how to work this fairly. I'm gonna have our anonymous. Okay, here's what our anonymous donors. I was like, hey, how do you want to give away this book? He's saying everyone who gets a plane right goes into a hat, and you pick the names. I don't know. How about anonymous donor? You pick some names and tell me. Because we got one more plane. This is the weirdest World War II plane I could find. And if you guys get this, you win all the prizes, even though you basically already. I don't know. So this one I liked. I did Photoshop the swastika off of that one because I liked it so much. What about that?
Oh
Boy.
Is it German?
I don't
I
know
wanna
how
say
to even
it's like,
pronounce it.
I want to say maybe.
God, I swear I've seen it before, but I'd have to look it up. I'd have to dig in deep.
I'm guessing maybe Focke-Wulf.
It's not.
I think it's Allied.
So first of all, I just like to say there's no way that thing actually can fly at all.
It's too lumpy.
It's far too lumpy. It's far too lumpy. It's a Breguet. Breguet? Breguet.
I was going to guess Breguet. I'm just kidding. No, I don't.
274 or 270. Wikipedia has it listed both ways, so no one actually knows.
So it's weird in French.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird in French. It was a reconnaissance plane, I think.
Interesting.
Dude, I could do this all night. I'm out of planes though, so let's count them up though. Like literally, other than the last three or four on the last page, you guys just like. I mean, it's like I had to make an answer key. Like, look at that. It's insane. Encyclopedic knowledge of flight. Okay, here's what we're gonna do about the. We're gonna do this because I didn't plan this. I've just been getting random texts from somebody who said they wanted to sponsor a book tonight. We're gonna announce a winner at the start of next week's episode. It's gonna be super fair. I don't know. It's not random. What are the rules? Am I breaking some sort of contest rule? I didn't even know we were having a contest. Someone's gonna get a book.
Awesome.
Anyway, guys.
Well, thank you to that anonymous donor out there. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I don't know what we're gonna do. Hey, if you want a copy of the book, just put that in the chat right now. If you want a copy of the book, and we'll pick someone who wants it. That's dangerous because no one's gonna say anything. So, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I did not expect. I really enjoyed our little aircraft identification thing. Maybe we can do that again sometime. And I hope we can all get together soon when it's safe. I would love to come up and hang out with you guys and
That would be great.
Talk more about obscure airplanes. So,
Absolutely.
And I'm going to cry myself to sleep for missing 4 of them. So
Yeah, I know.
you're never gonna miss those 4 again.
Hal and I are now going to become experts on the 4 that we missed.
yeah, exactly. Chris, meet me in the lab.
Did you know the Rougeau?
the Rougeau 270,
Yeah.
a wall with wings. Yeah, man, it's so funny because the other one I thought was interesting was the XP58, right? You got like the chain lightning thing. I think that one looked to me, and I don't know what the developmental history is, but like it looks to me like there it is. It looks to me like they were like, hey, the twin Mustang thing is working out pretty well.
It's like they kind of took a P-38 and tried to make like the family truckster out of it. Like,
Right.
Like, hey, you like P-38? You want to take some people with us? Let's make this.
Exactly. Bring the whole family, but still feel cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think you hate it now? Wait till you fly it.
And don't forget the optional rally fun pack.
Yes.
So I think that would have predated the twin Mustang by a little bit, at least just sequentially. It certainly did.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, with the number, right? You're talking about the model number.
Right.
All right. We got to wrap this up. We're way over time. Thanks, everyone, for hanging in the chat while we played our little game. Looks like people really enjoyed that. We could do more airplane trivia. If you guys like that, throw it in the comments. Chris and Hal, thank you so much for sharing the important story of the B17 and the work that you guys are doing up there at EAA. I'm bummed that I won't see you in like a month in person, but we're going to all be together online, kind of celebrating together, and I'm really excited for that. And once it's safe, let's all get together. I think I owe Hal a flight in an aircraft somehow. I promised you that at one point.
Yeah.
Chris can come too.
Absolutely.
We'll go fly somewhere, and I can try to stump you guys some more. So
As soon as you're finished restoring your Rougeau,
Yes.
right.
get that thing
Right.
flying and then come on up.
All right, yeah, I'll finish that up and we'll get it going. Everyone else, thanks for hanging out tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys every week. It warms my heart to have some hangar flying with my airplane people every week. And tune in next week. Eric Farewell is going to be on the show of Aviator PPGs. We're going to go all the way from warbirds this week to powered paragliding and ultralights next week. Eric is chatty like myself, so you should be in for a pretty good time. Anyway, everyone, all right, have a good night. We'll see you next time.